I came up with this 2-card spread while reading at an event for 15 people in 2 hours. Here is the speedy spread. This card here is the forecast, what might be coming up in the near future. And this card here is the energy to bring in response to this forecast. Now, I'll explain how I use this spread from a secular or skeptical perspective. Then, I'll share some examples of this spread here, including some negative cards in each of these spread positions. The deck that I'll be using today is the White Newman Tarot. This was a private corporate event that I read for. I expected a lot of the questions to be about career and relationships, of course. I was pleasantly surprised at how popular this deck was. So that's the deck I'll be using to demo these readings today. Now, I mentioned from a skeptical perspective because I have been one of those skeptical or secular readers who used to say, I don't do predictive readings, I don't like to read predictively, I didn't really see the benefit or the need to do predictive readings. I thought they were a little bit woo, a little bit unnecessary. But as I've gotten to simmer on these tarot messages throughout the years of learning tarot, and also just living my own life, having my own human experiences, I can see that there is benefit to looking ahead. If you're a skeptical reader who claims that you don't do predictive readings, consider this. If you're asking the cards, what energy do I need to bring to today? What energy do I need to bring to the coming week? That is a predictive reading. If you don't like the word predictive, you can consider these readings as speculative instead. You know, with or without tarot cards or any form of divination, we are speculating about the future all the time. For example, when we have big events coming up, we're speculating what we're going to need to do to prepare for this event, how this event might go, what the cooldown or the results after this event might be. If we're going on a new date, for example, or exploring a new friendship or relationship, we're speculating what the other person might be like, or what the other person might need, and what we might need to do in response to those needs. So we are speculating about all these different things in our lives, whether or not we're using tarot cards or other divination methods to do so. Some skeptical readers, my past self included, will try to draw such a distinction between introspection and current events and what we know versus prediction, what we don't know and all the unknown stuff, when in reality, I think the distinction between introspection and prediction isn't a really clear distinction, and I don't think it really needs to be made either. We're not just pulling predictions and random ideas out of thin air. We are synthesizing these speculations with what we already know, with our own human experiences, and also what we know about other humans, and also our personal context about this event coming up. Now, how does all of that tie into tarot, especially when you're doing tarot for other people? Well, the way that I frame my readings, and I didn't just come up with this myself, I've also synthesized this from hearing other magical readers explain their readings, is I liken the tarot reading or the divination reading to a weather forecast. Just like a weather forecast will predict the weather, it's also just sharing possibilities about the weather. We trust these weather forecasts to speculate about these future weather patterns based on what these weather forecasters know, but we also know that they're just possibilities. The weather forecast says it's going to be sunny on Saturday, but we might still have our umbrella in our back pocket or in our car just in case it might rain. It's up to us to plan accordingly what we want to do in response to this information about this possibility coming up conveyed in the forecast. And again, the skeptical reader, the past me who was like so insecure about my readings, would also be like, well, what if we say that the event needs like big energy coming up? And then the querent has big energy, but then that's not what they need. I guess it's up to us to frame this kind of message in a way that feels empowering for the querent. Maybe if they don't need big energy for this specific event coming up, they still realize this big energy in themselves and they can still apply to other situations that might be relevant. Okay, so enough theory babble. Let's go through some examples and explore this idea of reading predictively from a secular perspective using this simple 2-card spread I whipped up on the fly. I'll run through some examples here of how I use this predictive spread, and I'll also share some negative cards in either of these positions later on, because I know some people have that kind of question as well. How do we read negative cards in positive positions and vice versa? So let's do some general examples first. This card here is the forecast, what might be coming up for you in the horizon, and this card here is the energy to bring to this forecast. So example 1, the forecast, what might be coming up for you in the near future is a 2 of Swords. The energy to bring in response to this forecast is the 7 of Pentacles. And let's give this reading a specific topic as well. Let's ask about a growth opportunity at work. Might have an opportunity to get promoted or have more responsibilities at work. What might taking the opportunity entail for them? I might say, in looking at this growth opportunity, you might not have all the information that you need at this time to make a solid decision. 2 is a small number, and with swords representing thought or ideas, 2 swords is just not a lot of swords. So maybe it means that you might not have enough information to do what you need to do, or maybe to make this decision, or maybe to fulfill your full capacity in this role or whatever. It could also mean when the opportunity comes, remind yourself to stay centered, to stay humble in a way, not to get so egotistical, like, oh, I have so much rank, I have so many swords now. Nah, stay humble. You still only have 2 swords. You're still relatively new in the role. And at this point, someone might question me, like, why did I say this is a forecast, but I'm also kind of reading it as like an internal created opportunity? To that, I say that's just my reading style. Some people might just read this as hardcore, like an external situation or external possibility. If it works for your reading style and it feels right to you, that's what feels right to you. For me, I like to present it as an external opportunity that you can possibly look out for on the horizon, or just something that you can create for yourself. And I find that this kind of predictive reading can help me as well because it reminds me to look forward to upcoming things and to speculate how I might feel and prepare for these things accordingly. I forget that those big events do need prep time and they need cool down time. And I might be experiencing things in that event that I might not have considered. So in that way, tarot does act like a mirror for me to really speculate on and add context to these prompts on the reading mat here. Seven of Pentacles as energy to bring. I see the sevens as assessment, as discernment. So for example, you have all of these projects going on. You have to start prioritizing which ones you might want to focus on more in response to this forecast here. Assessing which of your current priorities you might need to let go of in a way. Assessing if this growth or this direction is the direction that you want to go at all. So those are some ideas there. Let's whip out some more sample readings here. And because when I'm doing these readings, I was doing them for like 5 to 8 minutes because that's just how little time I had, I get comfortable with just sharing a couple of interpretations and trusting that the querent can use that as a jumping off point. I hope that I'm giving the querent enough information and enough like specific themes to think about, but also still leaving it open-ended enough that they can fill in the blanks and or try to apply this information in different ways in their own lives. So now the next example here is the Six of Wands as the forecast, what's coming up for you. The Chariot is the energy to bring in response to this forecast. So maybe the forecast is you're going to find a situation where you or someone else is going to feel extremely high or haughty in a way. They're going to feel really good. They're going to feel almost on their high horse. I would also remind the querent that sometimes we also just want to gas up our friends or ourselves. So maybe this represents being in a high horse, but more in a neutral way. Maybe this is a situation when you do need to rise up to the occasion and show your confidence, show your grandiosity here. Now, the energy to bring in response to this possible grandiose opportunity, the Chariot, keeping the momentum of this kind of high or strong feeling, I guess. Sometimes we get a lot of confidence for like a certain event or maybe at the beginning of a new project or something, but then that confidence maybe slips away or dissipates away really fast. So maybe the Chariot is a reminder to find ways to have that high horseness be relatively stable and sustainable for a while. For the querent who's receiving this reading, if they have a tendency to go all in the first steps of a project, then they burn out really quickly after that, this can be a reminder to notice that kind of pattern and then adjust your approach accordingly, or have other things in place, or have other supports in place to help keep your motivation going at a sustainable pace, not place. Next example, the forecast is the Queen of Pentacles, and the energy to bring in response is the Magician. There's a possibility for you to show that you really have what it takes to be in this position. Pulling in the visual imagery, there's a possibility for you to be on this throne and to show the world, or show yourself at least, that you are very capable, you're very competent. And to show that you're competent, you have the proof around you. You have the proof of all these pentacles and things around you. If you don't see this opportunity coming, you got to just create it for yourself. The Magician is all about creation and also just doing without really thinking about the long-term consequences. And going back to earlier points about skeptical readers and how past me felt not really confident in doing predictive readings like this, the things that I'm sharing from these cards is based on what I know of human psychology and just based on my own experience. So it is okay if someone else reading these cards or someone else receiving this kind of message, it doesn't really resonate for them, because this is the way that I like to read the cards. This is the way that I like to share the messages. This is what the cards mean to me. It's possible, that the querent might not align with the messages here, in which case that's okay. There's also plenty of other tarot readers out there that maybe the querent can click with more. There's so many other tarot readers out there with all of our own different styles of reading and our different interpretations. If you have insecurity about your reading, you're not sure if your messages are accurate or if they're helpful for the querent, keep practicing reading for other people. Keep learning about the tarot so that you can understand these cards in even more context than you already know. And really just live your life so that you can see these tarot lessons and these human experience lessons play out in real time. Now, let's do some scary cards. Let's pull them out and do a few sample readings with them as well. Let's start with the Nine of Swords, for example. Eight of Swords. That's also another kind of scary card. Let's do another one. Wheel of Fortune as a forecast is a reminder that things are always changing. Life is always changing whether we want to or not. Oftentimes we turn to divination because we want help with dealing with these impending changes. Even if we don't feel like change, or even if we're not ready for change, there is just going to be change eventually. We try to hold on to things, but we also have to remember that at some point things have to change, whether internally or externally. Now, one might be stumped here, right? Like, how do I bring the supposedly negative energy of like anxieties of the Nine of Swords as energy to the Wheel of Fortune? So I could read this two ways. One is to be mindful of these energies here, to be mindful that we might be prone to overthinking, ruminating on our thoughts, having our thoughts continue running in circles when we're not really getting any new information. We're not really thinking about things in a new way. But the other thing I could mention here is to honestly do more of this. Maybe the querent has not thought enough about the situation or mentally prepared for all these upcoming changes as well. And I see a bit of like Four of Swords here as well, with this person laying down as if they were resting in a way. Like the fact that this person has all of their pillows and blankets out here, it almost feels like a really good deep thinking session or a planning session is necessary to bring in response to this change, impending change energy. Let's read the Nine of Swords in this position over here. Nine of Swords and Death. Okay, Death can be a scary card. Let's go try another one here. Six of Pentacles. That's like a kind of a neutral card. Okay, now let's say Nine of Swords is the forecast here. Now this can be scary as well, right? Because it's like, oh no, upcoming, I'm going to have a lot of anxiety. Look, man, we're probably going to have anxiety whether or not the cards predict it. So you know this, I know this. Let's figure out how to tackle it instead, right? Let's say this is like a relationship question. Someone is just trying to date. They're probably going to have a lot of processing and a lot of planning, a lot of thinking to be going through as they're going through this dating and stuff. So the energy to bring in response is to pair it with tangible action. This person laying down versus this person standing up and walking, it feels like facing it in a way. They're actually facing this figure here, this upcoming thing here. You might have a real big thinking or ruminating session coming up. Pair it with tangible action. Do it while you're watering your garden. Do it while you're doing community work. Do it while you're sharing money and time and hanging out with other people in the meantime. We're just spitballing here. Do a couple more examples and we'll wrap up. So Eight of Pentacles as forecast, maybe there's an opportunity or situation that will require a lot of real focus. It also may feel really repetitive at times. The Seven of Swords is a reminder to check your thoughts, or check your ego, or check your ruminating in a way. Many tarot decks or books will mention the Seven of Swords as just someone else being deceitful, but I like to expand this to include any forms of like checking ourselves, checking our thoughts. Sometimes the criticisms or the suspicions that we have about others or ourselves are helpful, but sometimes they just hold us back. You know, like how often have we been criticizing ourselves and preventing ourselves from just doing the work because we're so busy like trying to assess like what is the perfect way to do whatever. How are we going to do this perfectly from the start? You know, all these thoughts that really just hold us back. If I read this way, the Seven of Swords as the forecast, again, coming up, we might have situations where we need to be more discerning with our thoughts or the words or the communication that we're giving out to other people or to ourselves as well. And the Eight of Pentacles actually, in response to this, could mean to do more about it, put more practice. Sometimes we try to have things perfectly from the get-go, but we haven't done the practice to get things perfect in the first place. And this applies to relationships and thoughts and communications as well. Sometimes we might be beating ourselves up for that thing that we said or how we handled that conflict or that conversation. But truly, this here is a reminder that only practice makes perfect. We can't get these things perfect if we had never had the opportunity to practice this in the first place. And one more sample card here. The Two of Cups as a forecast, Five of Pentacles as energy in response to this forecast here. Could be a potential opportunity to really connect more deeply with someone else or with something else if it's like a new project, or even connect more deeply with yourself too. Now the Five of Pentacles as energy to bring to this, that's perplexing, right? Like how do we apply this left out in the cold looking picture as energy to bring in our tangible human lives? Similar to how the Five of Cups is like an acknowledgement that it's okay to be sad, it's okay to have conflicting feelings about a situation. The Five of Pentacles is also, it's okay to feel a little shaken up in some situations. Sometimes we try to feel content or feel like balance all the time. So the Five of Pentacles actually could be a reminder to be okay with possibly feeling unbalanced as we're making room for this new connection in the Two of Cups. And then let's flip these around. The Five of Pentacles as potential was coming up. Someone could really read that as like, oh my God, am I going to like lose my house? Am I going to lose whatever coming up? But really, applying these cards by theme rather than only as situations, in the future, you might be feeling ungrounded in a way, left out in the cold or isolated, or like the things that you have built up for yourself aren't really supporting you anymore. And so the energy to bring in response is the Two of Cups, which is to connect with other people or other things that really make you feel content and help balance you in the meantime. Those are some examples of some like negative or scary cards in these spreads. And I'm sure if you had more time to really dig into these readings, you could come up with a lot more interpretations for each of these cards. And you can also add more cards to each of these positions to really add more context. So that was the predictive spread I came up with, sharing it from a skeptical point of view. My reading style is always growing and evolving. A few years back, I wasn't comfortable doing predictive spreads like this, but now I am a lot more comfortable with them. I'm really curious for other secular or skeptical readers out there. If you do or you don't do predictive or speculative readings, why or why not? All right, that is all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.